people watch the power accrue. Scrutiny, read the stakes are high. Questions that sort of pierce the sky. Democracy's fire never runs dry. And our hopes they are oh, we ask the why. The echoes of history paint these walls, where whispers of change answer the calls. Our hopes they are oh, we ask the why. The echoes of history paint these walls, where whispers of change answer the calls. The oh, we ask the why. We ask the why. Debate.
And welcome to tonight's Order Paper Podcast, and we're joined by Ray, who's joining us, I think, another electorate away, but very closely down the road.
Mount Victoria.
And actually, do you know if you will be in the new Wellington Bays electorate or the Wellington North electorate at the next election?
Oh, actually, I don't. That's a very good
because
question.
I know they're changing the boundaries and it's going more north, but I don't know if where Mount Victoria falls into. So
I'm going to have to, write that down to check that out because, I'm not sure right now. I've just moved here, so, it's been, new postcode, all of that from Island Bay.
Oh, yes, no, you're no longer a 6023.
Yeah, 6011.
You're 6011. Oh, yeah, okay. See, Newtown 6021. So, you're definitely a bit of a jump from there. Yeah. And for those who are watching us online, we have our poll going on who we should be covering for tomorrow. So please go and make sure you get out and vote. You've got the choices of a solo act from Brooke Van Velden. You can also have a duo act from Erica Stanford and David Seymour. You can have a solo act from the Minister of Local Government, Simon Watt, who has been threatened to have his ferry services cut to his electorate by an Auckland councillor today. Or you can have the odd couple duo of Casey Costello and Matt Ducey. So, yes, whichever one you want to sit there and vote for, please get out and vote. We'll close the poll at the end of the show. So, what's your fun part about Scrutiny Week? Have you seen much so far, or this is the first time you're going to see them in action?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well, I have to admit, it was been a bit of a busy day, but I did manage to get home and catch the RNZ recap of what happened with the Finance Minister, Nicola Willis, and the Labour people today. It was actually really hilarious. They kept talking over her, and but rightly so. She needs a good...
So let me guess. I didn't catch that and go, actually, you've got that wrong, Barbara. We have sat there and done the things that make things look good for the government, and you are wrong, and your party left us in the shit.
And Labour kept going, but, where is it, kind of thing. Yeah, they were taking the piss. They were taking a piss a bit. It was, you have to listen to it. It is, it's worth a listen on RNZ. Yeah.
Oh, we might be able to see it in full picture here. Okay, Nikki, no votes. You've got the floor.
We'll just wait for everyone to take their seats.
Some great stories my grandma has told me about.
Welcome, members, officially to this, the Scrutiny Week. Looking here with the Minister of Finance on the financial statements of the government for the year ending 30 June 2025. I'd like to also welcome Mr. Reti and our other colleague here. Sorry, what was your name?
Jane Winfield.
Thank you. Nice to see you here as well. So, Minister, You're most welcome to give us some introductory remarks, and then we'll open it up for a wider discussion. So welcome.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee, for inviting me to talk about the 2024-25 year-end financial statements. Sitting beside me are Ian Rennie, the Secretary of the Treasury, and Jane Winfield, who is the Chief Government Accountant. With the Chair's permission, I'll just make a few introductory remarks. The year-end statements we are considering today are the first to fully reflect decisions made by the current government, and they show the first signs of progress in getting the country's books back in order. What sets the year-end statements apart from other financial releases, like the half-year or budget updates, is that these are actual numbers, not forecasts or projections. So what are those actual numbers? As a share of GDP, core Crown expenses fell from 33.1% in the 23-24 year to 32.5% in the 24-25 year. The government's intention in our fiscal strategy is to bring spending down even more as a proportion of the economy towards 30% of GDP. And that is the key to getting the books back to surplus. The government's headline operating balance measure, the operating balance before gains and losses excluding ACC, or OBGAL-X, remains steady at a deficit of 2.1% of GDP. In dollar terms, the deficit came in $900 million better than was forecast at the time of the budget. While that is progress, there is still a lot of work to do. The operating balance has been in deficit for the past 6 years. The government's intention is to return to surplus, and achieving that requires work over several years, not just 1 or 2. Net core Crown debt remains steady at 41.8% of GDP, and this was the first year that debt hasn't grown in several years. Over the 5 previous years, debt as a percentage of GDP rose every year. The government's intention over the forecast period is to bend the debt curve from going up to going down. More specifically, it is to put net core Crown debt as a percentage of GDP on a downward trajectory towards 40%. Members will be aware that the Treasury did some thorough analysis and modelling in 2022 and recommended a net debt ceiling of 50% of GDP. This was accepted by then Finance Minister Grant Robertson and by me. And I am heartened by the fact that at least some members of this committee have publicly stated their commitment to keeping net debt below this level. That is important both for New Zealand's fiscal sustainability and for our credibility with international lenders who continue to provide funding for new purposes, as well as rolling over existing debt. The 2024-25 year-end statements also set the starting point for the next set of fiscal forecasts. Treasury will present those in the half-year economic and fiscal update on 16 December. Members will be aware that economic forecasts have generally been revised down over the past 2 years as a greater understanding has developed about the nature and duration of the downturn and the recovery. These revisions have made the government's fiscal strategy harder to achieve. Earlier this year, I asked the Treasury to do a breakdown of changes in operating balance forecasts over time. This confirmed that the biggest reason by far for the change in OBGAL-X forecasts over time has been downward revisions in Treasury's tax revenue forecasts, excluding tax policy changes. It has not been a result of discretionary fiscal policy. In fact, OBGAL-X would be billions of dollars worse than currently forecast if we hadn't made significant savings to achieve much tighter budget allowances. Those savings cumulatively amount to $43 billion over this government's first 2 budgets. All of those savings were opposed by the opposition. In closing, let me acknowledge the team at Treasury and the Office of the Auditor General for their role in presenting these accounts, and I am happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you for focusing on that.
So we haven't got the 5 weeks yet, but we've had our...
Yeah, that was just, I can see that she would have practiced that speech a million times over last night in front of the mirror. Absolutely.
Probably got her 4 children and husband to sit there and go around and ask Patsy questions.
And there were some low shots there, especially at previous government, the Labor term, previously before National. I could definitely feel that coming through. Yeah. So good on you, Nicola.
She won't be sitting, It's a shame my Nicky No Boat shirt's on the clothes here. Okay, let's see how the first round of questions fire off.
Financial year 2024-25. It certainly makes my job easier here. We're going to go to Labour's lead, the Honourable Barbara Edmonds.
Kia ora, Minister. Thank you for appearing today. Minister, you often say that you're increasing infrastructure spending, but your accounts showed that you weren't spending it and that the capital commitments you have also not contracted them. So how do you reconcile your comments with your accounts?
with the simple reality that over the next 4 years, we have budgeted to invest a record $61.8 billion in public infrastructure. That number is only set to grow with at least an additional 13. I'm going to answer your question. With an additional 13.
Let's just let the minister answer. We will let the questionnaire ask her question or his question in silence, and we'll also pay the same courtesy to the answer. Thank you.
With an additional 13.2 billion in capital earmarked for allocation across the next 4 budgets. For contrast, that is a very good step up from the 50.6 billion that the previous government invested between 2019 and 2023.
Financial year, not talking about forecast spending. I'm talking about the last financial year. You spent less, but you've been saying you are spending more. How does your comments reconcile with the actual numbers in your financial year accounts?
Because at every budget, we have allocated additional capital expenditure on top of that which was committed by the previous government. It is the case, colleagues, that any government's capital allocations are the result of cumulative decisions that are made in many years previous, which are then only spent in a particular year. It is also the case that a considerable period of shovel-ready projects and the like under the previous government have come to an end in some cases. And it is also the case that many projects were delayed in delivery, as the last government was good at doing press releases, but not so good at getting shovels in the ground. Between now and Christmas.
Okay. Right, can we have another question?
Yeah, we've had that discussion before.
Okay, no, that's all right. That's fine. We're just carrying on.
Fine.
We're carrying on. No, it's not the focus of today. But we're going to go back to Honourable Edmonds.
So, Minister, can you see how spending $2.9 billion less on capital projects has resulted in less money flowing through the construction industry, the economy, and that's contributed to the construction sector losing 20,000 roles in the last year?
No, I don't accept your analysis. In budget 2025, we injected new capital funding of $6.8 billion to infrastructure. And in our budget 2024, we allocated considerable additional funding to infrastructure. And what I would also say, and I'm sure the member is aware, that high interest rates play a critical role in construction market activity. And that is why it has been so important to support the Reserve Bank to get inflation under control to enable interest rate reductions. It is the case that a significant proportion of construction activity is privately funded. And for our part as a government, what we have done to accelerate that investment is twofold. First, we've introduced fast-track legislation to ensure that projects such as the expansion of the Auckland Port, new housing developments in Nelson and elsewhere are able to come to the market sooner. Second, what we have done is ensured that in addition to those consenting changes coming through quickly, that wherever we can, we have put downward pressure on interest rates.
So, Minister, can you absolutely then confirm then for the committee that in the last financial year that you spent more or less? Which one is it?
We have continued to make additional investments in the government's capital allocation.
Okay, I've got a supplementary here.
Have you finished?
Yeah.
I've got a supplementary from Dr.
So,
Woods.
Minister, you say that that's the 4-year allocation and that it will be spent. However, the capital commitments in the Crown accounts show that there hasn't been contracting either. So how do you propose that this money is going to be spent over that time period? And wouldn't it be better to give certainty to the industry so they didn't need to keep laying people off and we see the construction sector bleeding jobs like we currently are? Why has there not been contracting activity?
Well, I'm very happy to address that question. I went through this in the House with your colleague, Aaron Williams, because there has been a misinterpretation of the table that I think you and Barbara Edmonds have referred to. What that table looks at is projects. Well, I'm happy to give you an explanation.
Which table, please?
Yeah, please.
If you'll give me the courtesy of answering,
Yes,
I will set that out for you.
Which table?
So the table that you're referring to is about contracted projects. And what that refers to is projects that have a contract to be delivered in the future. It does not refer to all of the capital that has been allocated. In some cases, projects that are contracted are the result of allocations that have been made several budgets previous. For our part, what the government discovered coming into office is that a habit had been built up under the past government that there were significant delays between budget funding being allocated and contracts being signed. Delays of more than a couple of years in many cases. So we have worked to accelerate the deployment of capital, and you have seen that with the $7 billion of infrastructure projects that we are ensuring have shovels in the ground ahead of Christmas, because in the end, you don't create a construction job by doing a press release. You actually need to ensure that the funding is in contract and is being delivered. And we expect that several projects will be contracted over the coming months.
Thank you, Minister. We've got.
I think we need a bit of interjection there.
Yeah, I needed a breather from that. Woo, yeah.
It seems to be a bit of talking over each other, a bit of.
I noticed Chloe over on the side looking like she's about to, either sort of like, fall asleep and vomit at the
You're
same
talking about the was it the lady to the left,
time.
or you're talking about from the audience?
No, I was talking about Chloe from Green Party, but yeah. That's,
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And why is Nicola talking so fast?
We do have it at 1.25 speed.
Oh, is that for copyright reasons?
No, it's so we can get through more footage in the shorter period of time.
Okay. I thought it was just Nicola. Everyone else seems to be speaking slower at that faster speed then. I think she does actually talk quicker.
I think she talks quicker when she's bullshitting.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And she just, it seems like, I mean, and I know politics is about, holding each other accountable and all of that. So it's not, left, right, and, whatever, but, it is MMP. But bowels. She's taking every opportunity to drop it on the previous government when she's coming through. And it's, some of her numbers just aren't adding up.
Yeah.
Basically.
She must be using a broken calculator.
I don't think she's,
I wonder if you can download an app called a broken calculator that gives you out the wrong figures.
I think you can.
Yeah. Considering, who actually uses a real calculator these days, that we tend to use them on our phones.
Oh my gosh. She's actually, but I have to admit, I do like her outfit. And her hair always looks nice, but that's about it. I
think that's very national blue.
Yeah. Well, of course.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear more from Nikki Noboats.
Supplementary from Dr.
Absolutely,
Woods.
except you don't create a job by a press release, but you create jobs by getting contracts, and your government is not doing that. Now, Minister, you've pointed to a table in the Crown Accounts that you have said that myself and Barbara Edburns and Arana Williams are misinterpreting. Which table number is that, Minister?
Sorry, there's a table referred to in the BIFU, in the budget update, which is the table referring to contracting. I presumed you were referring to that table. Which are you referring to?
No, I'm asking you, Minister. You referred to it. I'm asking you which
the
table you
in
were
the
referring
budget
to.
in economic fiscal
Okay, let's
update.
move on. Another supplementary.
I was going to ask that question too. So is the Minister now opening up the BIFU as well?
I'm simply referring to the member's question, and if she's referring to a different table, I encourage you to tell me which one you're referring to, and I'm very happy to comment on that in detail.
Thank you, Dr. Russell. The advice I've had from the Clerk's office in recent days is ministers can talk about more general issues, trends and themes in the sector. And so we do have that licence to talk broader, and I will be as generous as I can to the latitude I can give opposition members as well. I'm going to go to a supplementary. Okay.
So how much has actually been contracted, Minister?
Between now and Christmas, $7 billion worth of projects will have spades in the ground. And I want to give you a sense
So just let the Minister answer, please.
To give you a sense of what that means, one of the issues that members frequently refer to is delivery of public housing. In the last 23 months under this government, more than 7,000 more new built homes and social housing have been delivered. That contrasts with the entire 3 years previous, in which the last Labor government delivered fewer than that.
So when was the funding allocated for that?
Across several budgets. And that is the nature of it.
Which budget?
There we go.
Order. We're going to go to our Deputy Chair,
No, this is
Mr. Ryan Hamilton.
So this is where the spat over the social housing.
Yeah. I mean, because it's no secret that there's, now I'm getting riled up. Yeah. I mean, what's your take on that, Sam?
Oh, yes, taking credit for delivering something that the other guys did. I'm not surprised on that. It's that, it feels so Nicola. She tends to, if it's something positive from the previous government, she'll sit, like, put it this way, she will thank the previous government. She'll take credit for the tipsiness feeling for being drunk, but she'll blame Labor for the hangover.
Yeah, nice metaphor. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Considering Muldoon was one of our most public drunken politicians of all time, that kind of makes sense.
Well, put it this way. Yeah. I'm not sure Muldoon knew how to balance a budget. I mean, to be honest, he never ran a proper budget. He used to run a series of mini budgets. I mean, something we haven't experienced in New Zealand for a long time. In the United States, however, that's how they've been running the government since Mike Johnson's been Speaker.
Jeez.
Oh, and in the United States, they just keep running as continuing resolutions which have 2-month expiry date, whereas, like, you know, most countries, you typically have a budget and it's like flat for like a year.
But I have to say, this is one thing that does annoy me about MMP is the fact that it does seem to be a tit for tat. And there doesn't seem to be accountability. It's not like, you know, because we always know it's going to be National Labour and there's going to be a kingmaker. Thank God Winston is going to be retiring soon, hopefully.
No, he's going to be like Dianne Feinstein. He's going to die at age 90.
The grave, going, oh!
Well, it's something in there. He's going to be a Dianne Feinstein of New Zealand.
I can't wait for someone to make the documentary, actually. I think, I might.
Of Winston.
Yeah, Winston's story. I mean, you know,
I've got a great narrator. A lady called Bree Peters.
Oh, do you?
Yes,
is she
Bree's Winston's daughter. And she's an actress by trade.
Do you think she'd be into it?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, like, here's the thing is, I mean, she's done a stint on Shortland Street. I do know that. I think she's been on Home and Away as well. But yeah, that could be like the perfect person to narrate it. Would be his daughter.
But yeah, it's always a tit for tat, and just, you know, it's to see that then, you know, one party is not, especially the party that is currently in power, is not actually, you know, taking the grace to take some accountability. And actual take accountability and just say, you know, this is, you know, they actually did something right here, you know, but this is just like, and maybe they fucked it up there. Oh, sorry, I can't say.
Oh, that's all right. I'm sorry, we don't bleep her, but hey.
Well, it's live, but you know, just taking some accountability and just, you know, just not always just blaming stuff. It's just, that's what kind of puts me off politics, actually.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what Ryan Hamilton from Hamilton's got to say.
Thank you. I call it. Thank you. I call it. We're going to go. We're going to go to our Deputy Chair, Ryan Hamilton. Thank you.
Everyone's very excited today, Mr. Chair. It's the Christmas chair, I suppose.
Yes, I'd say so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for finally getting a supplementary from the side of the table. Deborah Russell made a point around.
Can I
ask the question?
Say it out loud.
Can we ask the question?
Yeah, okay. Please, can we hear the question in silence?
Deborah Russell talked about a reduction in construction expenditure, but more construction spending doesn't necessarily mean more efficiency. And Minister, isn't it true that we had to reduce some construction through the likes of state-owned Kāinga Water because of the inefficiencies and gold plating that was, and the lack of accountability that was through that agency?
Okay, right, you made it clear.
Yeah, look, one of the things that I'm very proud of our ministers for doing across the board is ensuring that when we're committing capital funding, we don't just measure ourselves on the size of the cheque, but actually on the value that is delivered for that. And the classic case is in education, where Minister Stanford has worked very effectively to ensure that the average cost of a new classroom has reduced from around 1.2 million to more like $600,000. And of course, the effect of that is New Zealanders get more bang for their buck, up to twice as many classrooms for the same amount of spend. And we should hold ourselves accountable for achieving that. It's not enough to say, I spent more, you actually need to deliver more. And our government has been very focused on making changes to capital allocation process and infrastructure delivery to ensure that's the case.
Okay, thank you, Minister. So just on that, if I heard you correctly, you're saying we're virtually delivering twice as much for the same cost.
That's right. And actually, that is work that's occurring across the board. And one of the things that we have asked ministers to do is put in place longer term plans for infrastructure delivery. So if you've seen in education and health, we have published plans that look a decade or two into the future about what the pipeline of activity is required to both replace ageing buildings, maintain them, and respond to growth. And that ensures that we prioritise the right projects in the right order. It also provides the construction sector clarity over what the pipeline ahead of them looks like, so they can ensure that their workforces are equipped to deliver those projects.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hamilton. We're going to go to Chloe Swarbrick.
Cool. So I've got quite a few questions.
Before we go to Chloe Swarbrick, literally trying to attack the opposition from Mr. Ryan Hamilton from Hamilton East.
It's like, It's like a letter to the editor.
Yeah, no, it is quite. The Ryan Hamilton one is quite funny. Ryan Hamilton used to be a Hamilton East councillor for the Hamilton City Council. He then resigned from Hamilton as Hamilton East councillor when he became the MP for Hamilton East. So you had a Hamilton East councillor by-election to replace the MP for Hamilton East, Ryan Hamilton from Hamilton.
Yeah, okay.
And the funny part is his electorate office is down the road from my friend Tony's place, who's can't stand National. Tony might need to turn up there in his wheelchair.
Oh, dear. I want to hear what Chloe's got to say.
Okay, let's get to Chloe.
About the nationally determined contribution, right? And I'd like them to just, if we can be as succinct as possible, noting how limited time we're operating within. So is the government committed to meeting the nationally determined contribution?
Yes, that remains our priority.
Okay. And is all of that NDC going to be met domestically?
Well, we have said that we're not prepared to spend billions of dollars sending money offshore to meet that NDC.
Is all of that NDC going to be met domestically or not?
We are working very hard to ensure that our priority of domestic climate action is met, and you will have seen that we have both achieved the first emissions budget, are on track to achieve the second, and are making very good progress domestically.
I'd refer you to the Climate Change Commission's hearing yesterday, which puts all of that in substantial doubt, but nonetheless, we've also had from your Minister of Climate Change a signing of a number of MOUs with other jurisdictions indicating that you are intending to meet that NDC offshore. I guess I just wanted to get clarity from you, because you've talked a lot about transparency and about financial responsibility. Are you, as Minister of Finance, committed to making transparent the potential liability under the NDC on the next budget?
I refer the member to page 25 of the financial statements, and I would read this very clear sentence. The judgment to not recognise a liability, which is both Treasury's judgment and a judgment assessed and approved by the Office of the Auditor General, is formed on the view that there is no legal obligation to achieve the NDCs, nor has there been a constructive obligation to meet the targets.
I see that and raise you the final paragraph of that very page, which says this judgment is consistent with the accounting treatment for the FSG since 2021, but is kept under review as future government actions, policies, circumstances, and announcement could change the NDC's accounting treatment, for example, by announcing or committing to specific plans to achieve the NDCs. What that means, Minister, is that you have full discretion over whether this potential liability is represented on the books. I am saying, as the co-leader of the Green Party, that I would love for it to be represented on the books. That's a starting point for cross-partisanship agreement on this. Do you, as Minister of Finance, believe that there should be that transparency afforded to New Zealanders for sake of financial responsibility to have that represented on the books, regardless of what Treasury is saying about the legal obligation?
No.
Interesting. Okay. Another question then.
Okay. Yep.
So your government and your decisions are seeing the rapid crunching of government spending. Businesses are not borrowing and households are heavily indebted. Your operating allowance was already below what Treasury said was necessary for business as usual service provision, and signs are fiscal projections are now deteriorating, meaning that you will have to borrow more as New Zealanders get less and less. When do you accept that your current fiscal strategy is a doom loop?
I disagree with the member's characterisation. In fact, I would encourage you to read the Reserve Bank's recent monetary policy statement, which makes clear that significant reductions in interest rates are ensuring that more New Zealanders are actually able to borrow for a mortgage. We currently have, and I know the member cares about this, the highest number of first-home buyers in the market than we have had in several years. And I think that reflects the fact that when interest rates are lower, it does afford people with lower incomes to enter the housing market. And that is a positive thing. As we look ahead, independent economists, including those at the Reserve Bank and elsewhere, are forecasting that inflation is set to go lower than it currently is, which means fewer price rises for New Zealanders who have struggled with the cost of living. And it also is forecasting faster growth, which of course will allow for more job creation and income growth. Those are positive things. I don't deny for a minute that it has been a very difficult several years for many New Zealanders in this economy. But what I would highlight for the member is that the sugar rush economics, which allowed inflation to hit generational highs and be sustained at those levels for a long time, has done a huge amount of damage to our economy. We are recovering from that. It will require ongoing discipline from the government. We can never again return to the days of reckless spending that has damaged our economy, it has damaged our books, it has damaged our...
I guess the counterfactual to that,
Final sub.
yeah, I guess the counterfactual to that would be reckless cuts, which in turn mean that we potentially end up needing to borrow more. Are you ruling out that you will need to borrow more?
I completely disagree with that member's analysis. We have not been reckless. We have been careful and targeted. And what I'd also highlight is that actually means we borrow less. The simple reality is that if we hadn't made the efficiencies in the public service, the changes to policy settings, the country would be far, far further in debt. We would likely be paying much higher interest rates and we would be more in the hock to international lenders than we are today. This government has reintroduced fiscal prudence and it couldn't have come soon enough.
Okay, I'm going to give three.
Not sure if celebrating low interest rates is actually a good thing, because normally when you have interest rates tumble down from like 5.5% of being the official cash rate down to 2.25, it's a sign your economy is tanking. It is not a good sign when you have such a sharp decrease in interest rates.
I'm just kind of spinning out on that whole spiel, because it's just like, yeah, there's so much that happened when Nicola Willis came in as finance minister, so many jobs that were lost, and now she's telling us that, you know, it's on the up, and, you know, we've got this happening, and, you know, and yeah, I mean, I've never been a homeowner, and coming into, you know, my late 40s, early 50s, probably won't be. You know, that's a reality, and it's really scary actually, because it's just, you know, and rents have been dropping all over the place, and which have been reflecting.
That's more of a Wellington issue. That's not quite the same nationwide. Wellington is quite unique about the rent dropping, but that's because we've hit a point now economically where properties are sitting vacant. Like Keith Powell from Life Place Property did mention that there are over 2,000 empty available to move in rentals in the Wellington. I'm not sure if it's Wellington City or Greater Wellington area, but he said it's one of the he's never seen that number so high on.
So it is more in Wellington.
It might be Greater Wellington region. So it's a section or trade me, but it's like he said, it was one of the highest levels he's actually ever seen in the whole time he's been in the property industry, as being a property manager for rental properties. He's never seen so many at once. Yeah.
So from your knowledge and research, Sam, do you know if it's the same in Auckland or?
It's not quite to the same extent in Auckland as it is in Wellington. In the South Island, they've been having their peaks climbing up. Like Queenstown is at the point where people who work there can't afford to live there.
Yeah, well, is that still a thing? Because I know that was really huge news about, you know, 6-8 months ago.
It's still
a thing down.
The demand for social housing in the area is way off the charts to normal. Like if you have an A20 rating for Housing New Zealand, you might struggle to actually get a house. And A20 is the highest rating available. So I really don't know if you can even get social housing of any sort in Queenstown.
And I don't think they've been doing enough in Wellington. I mean, because that's all I can speak of. Really.
If we look at Arlington, you know, that was a project that's basically has just been halted with spades in the ground. I mean, it's like, you know, MP Tamitha Paul and local councillor Geordie Rogers have been sitting there hammering the government on lack of action to the Minister of Housing and the Associate Minister of Housing. It's quite concerning, because if that was actually built, I think it was like 300 units it would have added to the system. It was quite a substantial number. And I mean, they had to move people on from there into other places, you know, to sit down there and, you know, demolish the building to rebuild something new. And at the moment, you're just seeing the steel rebar in the ground, and that's it. You know, it's quite disappointing. You know, thank goodness you don't have to sit there and drive down Hopper Street. Yeah. Okay, let's hear more from
your lunchman.
Nikki, who couldn't win a haru.
Supplementaries off this, one each, to Dr. Deborah Russell, Todd Stevenson, and Nancy Liu. So Dr. Russell.
I want to go back to the first primary there, which is around the nationally determined contributions. And I want to read a sentence out loud, word for word, from the exact note that the Minister referred to. On page 25, and it says, while New Zealand's priority is to use domestic climate action to meet NDC targets, it is likely the use of offshore mitigation will be required to achieve the NDC1 target. So that's sitting in the analysis of that particular note. So given that we think it is likely we're going to have to use offshore mitigation, why has that likely commitment not been recognised in the financial statements?
Because that it is the judgment of the Treasury and the Office of the Auditor General that a constructive obligation doesn't exist. I refer the member also to the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice, which states that countries are required to make their best efforts to meet their NDCs, but that the obligation does not require parties to achieve them.
So, but nevertheless, sitting in the financial statements, which I believe you would have signed off, Minister, there is a sentence that says, it is likely the use of offshore mitigation will be required to achieve the NDC1 target. Given that it is likely we're going to have to use offshore mitigation, what recognition of that is there in these accounts?
This simple recognition. I will always put New Zealanders first, and I do not believe it is in their interests to send billions of dollars offshore to meet your liability that James Shaw ratcheted up for this country in a reckless and irresponsible.
We've got order. We can go to Todd Stevenson Act.
Thank you. My supplementary is related to core Crown debt. So I'm on page 5 of the financial statements. And I just want to talk a little bit about, you made some opening comments that debt now is 41.8% of GDP. It hasn't grown. And in fact, I think actually the graph here shows that debt actually reduced against what was forecast. So a couple of questions. I want to understand really, what is the, basically, obviously we have to pay a lot of interest on that debt, so I'm keen to understand that. And then you also talked about the budget allowances and making savings there. So what kind of decisions in the statements we're looking at were driven by the fact that we actually have reasonably high debt and the servicing of that?
Yeah, look, you're correct. On a historical basis, debt is a lot higher than it has been in recent decades. It roughly doubled under the last government, and that comes with big servicing costs. So our current debt servicing costs around $9 billion a year. Put that number into context, that would be enough to pay for a full year of operations of the entire New Zealand Police Force, combined with the entire New Zealand Defence Force, combined with the entire Ministry for Corrections, all of the prison service, and the entire Customs Service and Ministry for Justice. So $9 billion is a significant amount of funding. And the more we ratchet up our debt, the more we are asking taxpayers today and future generations to put aside their tax to service our debt and not to build the future that they deserve. So that's why our government is determined to get the books back in balance so that we can get into a position where we bend that debt curve down and provide more flexibility and choices for future taxpayers.
And just one quick supplementary. And so restraining the operating allowances is one way of trying to address that issue?
Exactly. And so one of the core parts of our fiscal strategy is setting tight operating allowances for discretionary spending. In contrast, the last government did two things. One, had very high operating allowances relative to where they'd been previously and where they are now. And two, had a regular habit that whatever operating allowance they said they'd stick to, they then blew at every budget. And that has the effect of blowing up spending as a proportion of the economy over time, so that where it had been around 27%, it blew out to more like 34%. And so we're trying to get it back into the even field of around 30% of GDP. And just to be clear about what that means more of the money that New Zealanders earn and generate through their own efforts is available for them to spend, because we don't believe that the government is always best to spend your money better than you do. We want households and businesses to keep more of their own cash.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go.
I'm not sure the free chubba chups of the tax cut are going to sit there and get me that far. I mean, it doesn't even get me a litre of petrol, Nicola.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm really actually not hot on the fact that she keeps referring to the previous government, because, you know, being a child who was born in the late 70s and who grew up in the 80s under, you know, that national government, I thought they did a lot more damage that, you know, Labour's been trying to pick up on over the years. So it's just like, you know, I think, yeah. And I know that Nicola was born in around 1980, 81. I'm a little bit older than she is. So, yeah. She needs to, keep it in check there.
Yeah, it's definitely, you are right about the fact, she probably, you know, hasn't had much experience of the Muldoon era.
Yes.
That's all right. That's all right. I mean, hey, I was born. I was born when euthanasia happened.
Oh, connection's lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she
Okay.
She kind of annoys me there because she kept. Yeah. This is actually really triggering.
It's all right. Please
Sticking
stand
with
by
it.
for more triggering messages.
What's up, Nancy Lou?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister. This is a supplementary question to Chloe's question. So after years of, like you have said, Minister, the sugarcoating economy and the super high inflation experienced by Kiwis, supplementary question to Chloe. The government's financial statement actually, in my opinion, shows real sign of stabilisation for New Zealand. Net crown debt is lower than forecast. And despite the global headwinds, on page 4 of the financial statement, total revenue is 169 billion in revenue, higher than last year. Now, my question is, given the stabilisation that we're seeing in the financial statement, can you outline how much worse would it be for debt and also our deficit position if your government hadn't made early baseline savings across parliamentary services?
Yeah, well, look, it is absolutely the case that if we had stuck to the higher operating allowances forecast by the last government, then we would be billions of dollars more in deficit and more in debt, with the higher debt servicing costs that would have come with that. It is also the case that changes we made early on, for example, to ensure that benefits, rather than being indexed to a higher ratio, are just indexed to the cost of living, that has a structural impact, because it not only reduces spending in this year, but into the future. So we've worked hard to make sure that the finances are sustainable in the short, medium and long term. It is the case that we have been spending to get through the recovery, because as the economy has been in downturn, we've had to support New Zealanders who have been out of work. We've had to ensure we keep funding going to our schools and our hospitals. And so there is a deficit in reflection of that. But at the same time, we've been working very hard to reprioritise so that the books can return to surplus and are sustainable in the future.
Okay.
She just celebrated the fact that benefits are back to being indexed to CPI, which is based on things that beneficiaries probably wouldn't be really spending on, such as was it appliances or new cars or that sort of thing there that's worked into the CPI. Whereas when it was based on wage growth, which is how the pension has its valuation increases are based on, and she's making that, it's a sustainable move to kick the beneficiaries down the drain. I mean, like,
I didn't even read that out of it. What I read, I mean, yeah, no, and that's definitely there, but it's just like, it's like she had a total brain fade that when National came into government, they actually cancelled out, made, nearly 10,000 people redundant from the government services, and put them on, literally on the benefit. And she's not even accepting that. And still goes, the previous government.
And that's those who haven't left. I mean, some of them have gone to Australia.
Oh, who wouldn't?
Like they said, a number of people have been made redundant in New Zealand. If all of them stayed in New Zealand, our unemployment rate will be about 9%. Yeah, which is way higher than what it is. So if we didn't, the fact that many of them went to Australia, our unemployment rate isn't as high as it could be. Imagine if we had like 8-9% unemployment.
And as far as, what was she saying about healthcare again? That there's better healthcare now that National's in, as opposed to the previous government.
God,
no,
it's still frustrating. Like, I can't even get. It's not easy for me now. No offense to my GP, he does have a lot of patience. But I have to see.
Well, he has a lot of patience.
I've got to see a different doctor to get my next prescription refilled, because I can't see my actual GP, because either he's on leave or he's basically, I've tried to get an appointment and I can't get an appointment for like it's not available with my own GP at the moment, but he could be out of the country, because I think book so far in advance, and I can't get, and something like up to 6 weeks, so he could be out of the country. But the thing is, I'm having to go to another doctor within the same practice who can do the prescription, because my own GP is unavailable to take me. And there's things that I can go with this other doctor, but there are certain things I won't do with anyone other than my own GP.
Oh, once you've got that relationship with a good GP, I mean, that's the most, it's a really important relationship to have.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
So it's and one of the interesting things about, Nicola, that you'll read on her Wikipedia page, well, at least what they say that she admits to, is that she's definitely come from, a privileged upbringing, and she doesn't deny that. And, but it is what you do with it.
I mean, she equated to her tax cut as in being able to buy ice cream at the movies. It's like, who can I can't remember that. I've been to one movie watching in the last 5 years at a theatre. It just doesn't happen. I can't afford it, so don't bother even trying to talk to me about ice creams at the movie theatre. I can't even.
I think she was talking when she was 8 years old, and Mum gave her $2 to go.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Not now. I mean, an ice cream now at the movies costs about, $12, literally.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like, was it? I remember when Magnums, they were the premium ones, they're close to $5 now. Yeah, remember when Magnums
At the
used to be-
movies. They must
I'm
be
not sure about the
anyway.
movies, but like this is at like the Gerry's or the petrol station. You know, like I remember when Magnums used to be like $2.50. Like they were premium, but they weren't that like, you know, like you'll pay like an extra $1 compared to say a popsicle or something. You know, or Buffalo Bill or something like that. Like, you know, and now like, you know, all of them are like right up there in price. Yeah. Oh, let's see more from Nikki.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Deborah Russell for a sub, and then we're going to go to primaries because there's a number of speakers here,
So just
members
to
that haven't
I'll
had
go
their
sub-
primaries, and we're down
I'm
to
gonna have
18
to go
minutes.
for a
So,
finance
Ms. Swarbrick, we're not going to have additional subs. All these subs have been off your primary, where you had 2 or 3 subs after your primary. Now you're coming at the end for more subs. We're going to move back to the primaries, but first,
I like
Dr.
accountability.
Russell.
So, Minister, it's really interesting because the increase in debt due to the exigencies of the COVID pandemic was around about the same as the increase in debt as a result of the global financial crisis. Are you saying that sort of analysis you've just talked about in terms of sugarcoating and various other pejorative terms is exactly the same as the analysis that could be applied to Bill English?
No, very simple difference. Under Bill English, inflation never got to 7.3%, Ms. Russell, nor did it stay out of band for 3 years. And that had a significantly corrosive impact on New Zealand households who were burdened with a cost of living crisis that was disgraceful, led to an extraordinary increase in interest rates and the strangling of the economy that resulted from that. And it was wrong for your government to increase spending dramatically right when the Reserve Bank was begging you to put on the brakes.
Well, I'm afraid that that increased spending was, of course, backed by the National Party and backed by the National Party who called for even more spending.
We're going to go to a primary question. Someone who's been characteristically quiet, Rawiri Waititi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that introduction. Minister, could you answer this question for me? Māori contribution to GDP is in the billions, and that's iwi entities, SMEs, primary industries, growing workforce. Given the significance and the growing contribution Māori make to the national economy, what portion of GDP growth in the year ending 30 June is attributed to Māori economics activity, and how has this changed from the previous year?
Will you be aware that the Ministry for Business does analysis of the proportion of growth coming from the Māori economy? Unfortunately, those statistics aren't up to date for the previous financial year due to the collection of data and the lag in that. But what that does show over the past several years is that the Māori economy has been growing faster than the economy as a whole, which is very heartening and is something that I think is a great force for good in the economy, because when the Māori economy is growing, that creates more jobs, more incomes. It's a positive thing.
It doesn't marry with the current statistics for Māori unemployment, which is double that of non-Māori, up at around 10%, which is the highest we've seen in decades. On that, just a supplementary, budget 2024, given that Māori do contribute billions to the GDP, budget 2024 removed, 2024-2025, removed or reduced targeted funding for Māori health, housing, education, employment, and Crown Māori partnership structures. Treasury has historically warned that doing so worsens long-term fiscal risk. So my question is, what assessment was undertaken on the economic consequences of defunding Māori-specific programs in the 2024-2025 year? And will the Minister release that analysis?
Look, I actually disagree with some of the assertions you've made in that question, because take health. There is still a specific allocation for Māori health services as part of the allocation of funding to Health New Zealand, and that number increased in budget 24 rather than decreased. It is still the case that in the education budget, for example, not only is there specific funding allocation to support Māori medium education across Kohanga Reo, Kura Kaupapa, but also there were specific capital allocations to support the infrastructure needed for those services. What is the case also is that, as you know, Māori benefit from our investment in services across the board, whether that is the significant uplift in health spending, which is a proportion of GDP, is now the highest it has been in many, many years, whether that's the investment in education, not only the investment, but the commitment to achievement, which in the latest results from the structured numeracy and literacy trials is seeing Māori educational achievement have some of the most healthy increases we've seen for years. So I just reject the idea that this government would not be committed to increasing the living standards of Māori. We absolutely are.
Can you?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I need to say something there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, no, it's serious. I mean, sorry, I can't think of her name right now, but the education
Nicola Willis or Corey Swarbrick?
Yeah, just literally cut te reo out of mainstream education. And now that, oh my gosh, that just actually does my head in. I need to look at the stats right now, Māori literacy, and yeah. And yeah, that's just that. Actually, she's talking out of her ass there. Sorry, guys, if someone wants to, and the panel have a little bit of a tell me what I'm saying wrong there, but far out. They literally cut a lot of te reo, a lot of tikanga Māori, all of that out of the main syllabus. And what so she's that's cool what she's saying there.
But that doesn't
It's
surprise
just-
me. She take
Sorry.
like, as I say, the positive things that happen for Māori, Nicola will take credit for. The negative things for Māori, she'll blame on Labour, Te Pāti Māori, and the Greens. Yeah. So let's see more from Rawiri's questions.
To answer this question,
Yeah.
Minister, the government has borrowed another $33 billion, and with no catastrophe, no COVID, no whakaari, no earthquakes. Can you just explain to me why there is a higher, why the debt is worse to GDP ratio in decades? Can you explain that to us, please?
Yes, I can, and it's a very good question. And every time members along that side tell me I'm wrong to have made savings, I think they need to listen to the answer to this question. Because it is the case that New Zealand in a time of lower growth does need to borrow to do things like deliver education and health services. Now, we do have a choice. We could say, actually, no, it's more important that we immediately get the books back to balance. And what that would require would be significant reductions in service delivery across the economy. Our government has rejected that course. Instead, what we've set is a steady path to getting the books back into balance, which will ensure that over the medium term, we can achieve debt reduction. I think we've struck the right balance at every term. When we've delivered savings, we've had people jump up and say, how dare they? It is the case that if we hadn't made those difficult choices, the debt would be a lot worse.
Okay, thank you. Have we got a sup here from Dan Bidwell?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Minister, just to that point, any indication from you or your ministry around how much extra debt we would be carrying if it wasn't for the decisions that you made in this budget?
Well, look, I am going to do that tally because I think those who claim that they're going to be good at saying no better start learning how to say no. Because over the past couple of years, whether it's the pay equity changes, which result in about $13 billion worth of extra spending that would have been required, whether it's the reduction in the baselines of some back office public service agencies, whether it's changes, as I said, to the way that benefits are paid in this country, those changes cumulatively have saved the taxpayer billions of dollars a year. And those members who both say we shouldn't have done those things, but also the debt should be lower, have an irreconcilable position. The good news is next year they'll have to reconcile it and New Zealanders will see that they still can't add.
Okay, I've got a
So is that her way of admitting that she knows she's going to, be part of the losing team for the election? Or is it the fact that show us the money and she'll sit there and try and poke holes at things with a tax law expert such as Barbara Edmonds?
Oh, she's so poking holes. I'm really just not happy with Nicola that her whole thing is about to say the previous governments, like she's just saying the past 6 years of Labour-led government. And like I say, she's a child of the 80s. She probably is too young to realise that, she was born in a time of national when they were really effing things up in our country that actually set this up. So I don't think she's acknowledging that at all. And,
she probably sits there and probably would sit there and agree with many of the things that Muldoon may have done. Even I think she's more behaving like a Ruth Richardson than a Muldoon style Minister of Finance.
Oh, that's right. Now you're bringing it back, Ruth Richardson, and she was Prime Minister through
Finance Minister, not Prime Minister.
Oh no, she was Prime Minister for a really short time.
No, you'll be thinking of Jenny Shipley.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
Ruth Richardson.
But remember Jenny Shipley.
Ruth Richardson. She got in the 1993 election. She lost her. She wasn't offered finance as part of a cabinet position, so she sat down there and went to the back bench and then left and caused the by-election.
Yeah, just literally kind of like walked out.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. It's yeah, she probably realised her time was over. Yeah. Do you think we've had enough of Nicola?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is time to move on. I just want to, oh my gosh. I mean, wow. Just talk about deflection. It's just like, I think, obviously she's a really good politician. She's really eloquent. She does know her stuff, but she's totally got it. It's like she's writing a script and I just don't buy it. Yeah. So yeah, let's move on.
Okay, we're going to move to Governance and Administration Committee with Gerry Brownlee and the Clerk of the House, Dr. David Wilson, who isn't the MP, just because we also have a David Wilson who is an MP, who actually, is he also, no, he's not, he at least, is he a doctor? No, it doesn't look like he's a doctor.
Has he got a PhD?
Was on the Clerk of the House. I think he does. Yeah, he's been in the role for a long time.
Yeah.
Let's kick it off. Oh, that's helpful. Empty chairs.
We won't be having minced pies.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Governance and Administration Committee. We've got a
that's
hearing
weird.
with you
We've
today
seen the
until
clerk not in his clerk
9:15.
outfit.
And
Sorry, it's a lot of talk behind. The meeting started.
Oh my gosh, is the speaker telling everyone?
and we will give you the opportunity to make some opening comments if you wish, and then move into questions from the committee. So thank you very much for joining us this morning.
The only opening comment I'll make is that I think the two agencies have done the best they can with the budget that's been provided, but signal that the many years for which those budgets have been static have kind of run to the end course, and we're now starting to find that the demands from members of parliament for services and the expectations from members of parliament for services is becoming increasingly difficult to meet the current budget. So I'd expect that this next budget round, there will be a number of changes that should be anticipated and are all in favour of members' own workloads.
Any other opening comments?
No. Yeah, just wanted to follow on previous hearings with the committee and questions that the committee has asked in the past. So I thought I would give you some updates. The first one is regarding the progress with the future accommodation strategy. So we've made significant progress over the past year. You would have seen building is looking more like a building now at the back. And we expect the buildings to be fully operational by 2027. Mid-2026, you will see the exterior done and work on the interior would have been started. We also got some funding that came from the executive wing annex for us to fix the South Library, which was earthquake prone. So we are considering the options in terms of fixing that building. But with changes to the earthquake prone building system, we are considering what the options are for that area. You would have seen the work on precinct, the infrastructure of the precinct still continues, but we've made really good progress there. We also developed new ministerial suites on the executive wing. We are working on the accessibility of buildings, including work in the chamber to allow a member that, for example, is on a wheelchair to have better access to it. Work in security still continues. We introduced a new service, which was part of in the previous parliament by the election, but is now fully operational, which is assisting members when they go to public events. And so we provide advice on those events and also accompany members when necessary. And if members are not aware of this service, I encourage them to reach out to the security team. But it's had a really good uptake over this year. That's pretty much it from me.
Can I just make the comment about the parliamentary library building? It's the very ground floor of it, where there were 15 offices put in to that area in 2018. And at that time, it was assessed as 85% of National Building Standard.
when the standards changed, it dropped to 15%, but nothing had actually altered inside the building. To bring it back from that 15 to the 85, that cost about 90 million. The question now is, does any of that need to be done at all? Because it's still a very viable building, but there will be some safety enhancements that might move it beyond the current 85, but that's obviously at quite a massively reduced cost. And it's worth the committee knowing that we were right. We'd actually gone out to tender for that, to spend that 90 million, which has been put on hold because of reconsideration. And I think you have to see those standards as being rules that are worked out on paper that don't take into consideration the actual nature and shape of any particular building.
Well, it's interesting to find out about, was it earthquake standard changes?
I'm just still waiting for the library to reopen, let alone some of the earthquake.
The parliamentary library, this one, not the actual main library.
I know, but it's just like, but I would have thought that it's all important, but and obviously, and I think the work on the public libraries just about come to fruition.
Yeah, it's new.
But wow, and it's like that's a lot of money though. It's a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear more from was it Gerry and his team?
Yes, I've got quick supplementary.
Just a quick one on that. Just so I've understood this, Mr. Speaker, is that because of a reassessment of the building, or just because of the change that's coming through in legislation?
If you take the assessment of the building against the changes in legislation, then it completely is fine. It goes back to the former consideration, which would put it at around that 85% of National Building Code, which is very high for any commercial building.
And that saving, just remind me, how much is that saving? Will that save?
Well, we don't know yet. The budget was 90 million approved inside that future accommodation strategy. We'll work out what's necessary to bring it up to a standard so that people are confident about going in there.
Thank you.
And Glenn and I had our first offices down there. So
Glenn
and I had our first offices down there in the library.
Right.
So we're pleased to hear that it's looking like it's safe here.
Well, it's just empty.
Nobody
else.
Ridiculous.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to come back to your opening remarks. And I was looking at the document, the strategic intentions of the Office of the Clerk in the Parliamentary Service that you signed off last year, where you talked about the fact they play a critical part in ensuring a healthy, robust, representative democracy for New Zealand. And then you obviously went to say that they're doing the best they can with the budget they have and the demands that MPs are putting on them. Can you just talk a bit more to that? And then the last
I think, hang on, I better clarify that. It's not that the MPs are being demanding.
Okay.
It's that there are demands on MPs that are changing. And I'm sure David will be able to speak to that, and Raf as well, more specific stuff. But if you think of just even what we now need to provide for security inside out of Parliament offices, and the frequency with which we're having to engage in activities that come from various threats that are made to MPs, they all come at a cost, and you can keep trimming in all sorts of directions. The other one is the increasing costs of those out of Parliament offices and the inequity across the country between people that might have several offices in low-cost areas, big electorates, for example, small towns, but someone in an urban electorate faces, a big percentage of their budget, their current budget, just for the rental. So trying to look at ways in which we smooth some of that out as well. Do you want to add to that, Raf?
That's pretty much, Mr. Speaker. One thing that's been discovered through the consultation on Speaker's directions is that inequity across the country with rents in different places. So we are working on the proposals for the Parliamentary Service Commission on how to fix that.
So supplementary, do you think that in the past year that we have been able to do our jobs properly, and as you said about a robust democracy, we've been able to deliver that with the money we've had?
Well, that would require me to make a comment about individual MP performances, which is not really the purpose here today. But I think look, you can stretch anything indefinitely until it completely breaks. And I think at the moment, given that the funding for this hasn't increased for how many years?
Oh, at least 7 from memory.
7 years, 7 or 8 years. That's a long time to continue operating as we have been, and not having a blowout on an annual basis.
It's actually an interesting point. He mentions about how funding has not actually increased for, the base funding line has not increased for 7 years. That's quite concerning because rents have gone up, rates have gone up, insurance has gone up.
Yeah, so where's the money gone? Yeah, it's just like, I read bullshit actually, and I'm not trying to be an absolute cynic because and I'm not trying to out myself as an absolute lefty, but I think it's become quite obvious over this podcast so far.
Many of our panelists are. I do have some right-leaning ones who still get called lefties as well.
But but I'm a right-handed person. But wow, just sitting there, Gerry Brownlee should know better than just and he doesn't look that healthy actually. Sorry, I know he's a big man, but that's a lot. And I'm not trying to fat shame him, but that's a lot.
I think he's in his last parliament term. I do
think
think so. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and that's not being mean or anything, because it's just like, you can't carry that much, and then just expect to be a healthy person.
Yeah, well, at least we haven't got that comedian from Sweden trying to sit there and have a go at him again like he did quite a long. Oh God, it was about. It would be probably about 10 or 15 years ago.
Did he get roasted by a Swedish comedian?
No, there was a Swedish comedian who had a talk show in Sweden who, it was something that happened, and he sat there and said something, and the Swedish comedian switched languages to English to have a go at him in his show, and sat down there and showed parliamentary footage of it. And one of the things that sat there and said there was he said about, we're not sure whether you're having your third breakfast or your fifth lunch, but your body mass index takes on 3 people, is what was said. And it was definitely it definitely really pushed it.
That was a bit mean. That was fat shaming. But I mean, he's kind of trying to shame the general New Zealanders out of feeling like it's okay that they're spending exorbitant amounts of money over getting the parliamentary library in order, and some of the and that's true. I mean it's a historic building. It's really important.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the offices that are underneath it that was where the problem with the earthquake code wasn't actually the building itself.
What was it, Sam?
It was the offices underneath the library. So it was like an addition that was put in.
Yeah. And that was the same with the city library actually. It was the basement and that's why this and the library and the city gallery, all of that. It was all of the basement work that had been put, because of the big river that, had been flowing through Wellington. Yeah,
I'm not sure if there's a river flowing through the Parliament one, but yes, I know what you mean about the, yes, we definitely know that about where the main library is. Yeah. More from Gerry.
Oh, Jesus.
Have you finished your office? Yeah, Indy.
Yeah, just wondering if you could, so the Parliament bill having been passed, how are we going in terms of the preparation of the implementation, particularly the training around the security staff?
Yeah, you can answer that. There's a process.
I know there is.
Yes, we've got a plan for the training in place, and we are starting that training in February on time for get certification of those security officers. And we think it should be done by the second quarter of next year.
The aim is to have it all in place by mid-year.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Good.
Celia.
Thank you. I'd like to preface my question with a big thank you. The library staff, fantastic at answering questions. The Office of the Clerk take you through some of the when you can make an amendment, when you can't, in a very helpful way. And the security staff, they always know where a meeting is if we don't. So it's pretty awesome to be supported like that. So well done. And I hear what you're saying about the tightness of the budget. What I wanted to go on to ask was to what extent you measure the morale of staff, and that's in particular in relation to the very increased workload, the increased urgency, the record number of submissions on the Treaty Principles Bill, which everyone knew was not going to go any further. It's one thing to have a lot of submissions where you feel you might make a difference, but to have a lot of submissions where you know what the answer is, was that tough on staff?
I can answer that because the Parliamentary Service and the Office of the Clerk do quarterly engagement surveys with our staff. Engagement has remained really high, higher than the public sector average. And that's what we use as a comparator because it's the most similar workforce. So it has remained really high. I think, I mean, we as well as doing a survey, people can give comments, and I think we have commented on the impact of the heavier parliamentary workload on their sort of work-life balance, but engagement and morale does remain really high.
Well, that's a credit to you. Thank you.
Just to let you know also, the Standing Orders Committee is looking at ways in which there might be better processes for dealing with multiple submissions, because I don't think they're going to stop. I think the capacity now, particularly with AI, to send in submissions that are of a similar nature but quite different is just going to grow. So we have to have some way of responding to that. And we've had some very good engagement at that committee with various people who are regular submitters who have identified that as a problem as well, including Professor Kelsey, who's been quite critical of the way in which things have been done, but now sees actually there's a need to change the way in which submissions are received and dealt with, and has made good submissions on that.
Thank you.
Tom.
Well, I definitely know if it's just a select committee and I miss the deadline, if I email it in, it always gets put in.
Huh? Sorry, I missed the last
If it's the Justice Select Committee and if I've missed the deadline, I can email them and they tend to always put it in.
I actually thought that Gerry sounded really reasonable there. Yeah, no.
It's got a lot of maybe the school teacher self of him is coming out.
Yeah. He just looks a bit weird to me, and maybe it's just my sort of visual thing with his. And it's not true, but it's just how I see it. It's two henchmen on either side, and they're all wearing, really out there ties and just, he keeps looking to either of them like, her.
It's an interesting one because seeing the three in the trio there, because you don't normally see all three of those together. You might see like David and Gerry together being in the House, but they typically are Gerry's in the speaker seat and David's in the row of seats in the front. But yeah, it is definitely, it's interesting just seeing that. Like I watched one time David do a submission on a bill, which you don't normally have the clerk of the House do submissions on bills. But this one was actually quite important. One because it was about the parliamentary term and the referendums and all that sort of stuff, and he came across like it was like you sat and looked at the select committee. It felt like a bit like royalty turned up, but it was a very proactive, constructive question, submission and then Q&A.
Yeah, no, kudos to Gerry actually, because he's come across really well.
Yeah. Okay, let's get more from Gerry.
Mr. Speaker, in your opening remarks, you just made some comments about, and Glenn touched on it in his line of questioning around the financing for MPs. What will the Parliament bill changes have in that regard?
Well, one of the things that's interesting about the Parliament bill is that it makes Parliament itself responsible for its own budget as opposed to the executive. And so MPs will be able to submit to the body that oversees that, probably the Parliamentary Service Commission, to make clear what their needs are in their electorates. And then there'll be, I think, in my experience over the years, quite a genuine consideration of whether or not those requests are legitimate, whether they are more driven by political needs as opposed to representative needs, and that will then flow through into funding.
I just want to flesh that out. Are you suggesting that you expect that rather than every MP getting a lump sum and everybody gets the same allocation, that MPs based on, say, and you referenced it, the size of their electorate, potentially if they've got a larger rural population or smaller towns or communities, that they may be able to apply to have an increase on their parliamentary budgets versus those who live in postage stamp electorates, for example?
Well, that is already the case. So
with the large electorates, yes.
Yeah, the criteria for determining a large electorate is fairly, I was going to say inconsistent. It's not inconsistent, but it's just a
arbitrary
formula that's put together and away you go. But that doesn't take into account that someone living with one of those large electorates may be able to fund several offices for a fraction of the cost of someone living in an urban area. And so I think you can expect there will be some change to the way in which the allocation of funding inside your budget for our Parliament offices is likely to change. But I don't want to, predict what the Parliamentary Service Commission may decide on that. That's approved for all party members.
What about what we often see take place around the pooling of funding, where MPs who don't have constituency offices effectively have an advantage where, because they don't pay for the running costs of an electorate office, the power that's associated with it, the staff costs that are associated with it, and they pool their funding together as potentially as a political party and then can use that nationwide rather than those who are constituency MPs who have to use it in their electorate. Is there any thought around sort of stopping that from happening and making it more equitable for those that are constituency MPs?
Well, that's why the focus on the facilities is the first point. The second point I make is that some parties in particular have asked for bulk funding for quite some years and continue to do so. So to ignore that and to block it out, I think would be right. Because all parties, to some extent, are using the capacity to bulk funds together to one degree or another. So I don't think that will change, but that would be something that members should bring to the Parliamentary Service Commission if they want that considered.
And just my final question, if I may. What about the increasing security expectations on MPs, electorate officers in particular? There's, we've obviously seen an uprise in disgruntlement in the public at MPs of all political stripes, but also the expectations of constituency MPs to have sort of Fort Knox security arrangements at their electorate offices, which in some cases can be a large barrier for people wanting to access their MPs. Well, how do we get the balance right?
Well, one way to get the balance in a better place would be to change the employment laws. When that happens, then there can be other changes. But right now, the responsibility for people working in those offices lies firstly with the Member of Parliament, secondly with the Parliamentary Service Commission Chief Executive. So as the employer under the current law, there are some basic steps that need to be taken. And believe me, I've railed against this sort of stuff myself in the past, but I can see where the obligations lie. And until Parliament decides to change those obligations, then you have to act within the law.
Ref, I just welcome some comments from you on that, if that would be okay.
I agree, and I know that it's difficult sometimes in some electorate offices because they are not all standard to fit all the requirements. But I agree with the speaker. Some of the things that are the security measures in the office are what the Parliamentary Service Commission has approved, what members across all parties have approved. We are working with members because we don't want to put us round peg on a square hole, but I don't know if I've said it right, but anyway, we just, the other way around, we are just trying to work with the member to ensure that the staff are safe in the offices and we can come to a good arrangement there.
Thank you.
Just want to bring us back to the...
Well, it's interesting talking about parliamentary budgets and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely about, giving bulk funding, especially to smaller parliamentary or regional, kind of.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting part is in the region, you tend to do see that more. Now, it's quite interesting because Tom Bruniford's electorate implies rural, but actually it's quite urban. And because he's Bay of Plenty and his electorate's about to, has just had, at the next elections, had a complete rewrite because it will no longer be Bay of Plenty, which is a ring that goes around the Tauranga electorate. It will become that going to be split into Tauranga and Mount Maunganui. Considering when the electorate was first formed in 1996, it went all the way up to the East Cape and just gradually just got shrunk down because the population growth there has occurred in the Tauranga area. Because his one, because his electorate office is in Papamoa, but the electorate itself also covers bits north of Tauranga on its way out to Katikati. So it is a bit like, if you're the MP, you go to it, you actually have to drive through a whole city to get to it. It's quite, so that's something where, in his current situation, 2 officers could have a little bit of bonus, but also rents aren't exactly cheap in the area. Or you got a situation like at the moment in Wellington where Julian Genter, MP for Rongotai, and Tamafa Paul, MP for Wellington Central, have gone into one single office on the electoral boundary because the rents for office, Yeah,
Sorry.
the rents for offices in Wellington is like horrendous. Like, I mean,
So they're sharing office space.
Oh, they share an electric office, but I mean, they're pulling their staff together so they can actually deal through, like, so they can actually, be open a decent amount of hours. Because I think the electoral office for the Reti Wellington Central one, their office is like open like 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Which is quite a high number considering if you look at, say, Louise Upson's office in Cambridge, it's open 3 days a week and it's only open for about 4 hours a day on those days that are opened.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, you need to have that sort of privacy and, so that people can feel safe about, talking about their political views with their...
Or like, sensitive issues like having to deal with like government agencies like ACC or work and income.
Yeah.
You definitely do. You don't want to be quite in a open area sort of thing in there. It's quite a...
I'm sure they've got their private offices off to the side or their private...
Yeah, and I mean, the election office is only one office. I mean, put it this way, Julian Genter can bite between her electorate office and her parliamentary office because most MPs actually are typically they're
probably take it home.
It's exactly like the officers like Julian's and same with Tamitha, they're in that interesting boat of the fact that their offices are very close to each other. It's the same with like Greg O'Connor and Hariu. His electorate office is actually literally like he could drive from it's like a 15-minute drive between his parliamentary electorate office and his MP's electorate office, Parliament office and MP's office, and it's amazing how close some are. I can note Chris Bishop does manage to stretch the budget it has too, because he has one in Lower Hutt and he also has one in Wainuiomata. And I definitely know Ginny Anderson is the same. She has one in Petone and her other one's in Wainuiomata. So that's something that I have noticed that with both Ginny and Chris, which are our two MPs from the Hutt.
Hey, Sam and listeners, I'm just going to have to go to the wharepaku.
All good. Well, I'll have to do all the talking for the next section then, and we'll hear more from Gerry.
No, it won't take me long, but no.
Right. See you soon.
Yeah.
It's an interesting discussion about that, the year in review, which is what our colleagues are here to discuss. And I'm sure that there is nothing in any piece of legislation that says anything other than it needs to be a safe workplace, and there isn't specific requirements as imposed by parliamentary services listed in legislation. Just want to make that when I know the listings are supplementary.
Yes, I just want to go back to a point that Mr. Rutherford actually raised in terms of the funding for accommodation for MPs, which actually reflects in your budget. One of the things that I've actually noticed over the years, we've always actually had issues in main centres where the rents are so high and the budget for MPs are pretty much the same right across the country, regardless of whether the rent is really cheap in the regions versus people who are actually in the main centres like Auckland and Wellington, for example. Rents are astronomical. Have you considered how we can actually be more fair to MPs who actually are in the main centres who really cannot afford within their budget to actually rent decent spaces?
Yes, there's actually an item at the Parliamentary Service Commission today looking at that for the next parliamentary year.
That's good. Thank you. Eddie, was yours a primary question? Yeah, Glenn.
You introduced obviously venue hire fee, and I understand why. And obviously we've challenged it a few times, and you've created some criteria for those who don't need to pay. Can you just talk through how that's going? And then in terms of the criteria you have for those that you're allowed to use the venue for free.
Okay, so the first point is that the parliamentary service subsidy or cost, you might say, on catering operations, events of the type that you're talking about, plus others, was costing about $1 million a year that's across all of the services that are provided. So the functions, as well as the two restaurants, the cafe and the restaurant, and the then bar. And the first full year of this new arrangement operating, that cost has been turned into a $74,000 surplus. So it's not cheap to do all those things. I take a view that if it's something that a department wants to do, they should pay for it. They shouldn't be shoving the costs onto another government agency, which is parliamentary service. And if it's an outside body that has a commercial interest, then they pay. If they're a registered charity, then they can be considered for that fee waiver. And the fee waiver happens a lot. It doesn't mean that it's not paid because it comes out of the speaker's budget. So I've found arrangements like that for that particular purpose. But there are some things that are, remember too that as members of parliament we all get a budget to operate on. So as leaders' offices, there are budgets to undertake political activity. And well, no, hang on, can't say that, can we? Undertake activity that is of a policy nature, particular to that particular party's position. And I just think those shoving all the costs into a place where no one really looks at it is not the right sort of thing to do. So if those other budgets need to expand, well, that's something that the Parliament bill can look at as well, under the Parliament bill can look at as well.
And I agree. I agree that I think you've done the right thing in terms of outside companies paying to use the facilities, and I guess would you consider putting in an actual speaker's rule or anything that we can have real clarity on what can and can't be considered?
Yeah, look, I'm trying to develop that, but I think there needs to be some area of discretion because I don't want to name it, but there are some charities who I would not want to have having functions here.
See, there's that. My concern, therefore, is it's obviously, which I know you are the speaker, so it's your choice. You're the landlord, but does that create an issue? That's whoever's the speaker, they have their own lens on things, and
well, that's what I'm trying to get at. Something that is going to be in either speakers' rulings or just a circulated set of rules that makes it easy to apply.
Destiny Church is an unsaviourable charity that probably shouldn't be using the parliamentary services. I wonder if that's what Gerry's been hinting to.
Oh my gosh, because that was even in the news today, wasn't it? And it was just like, I couldn't believe it though when I saw a photo of what Mike King looks like today as opposed
to yes, over Gumboot Friday, yes.
I mean, I'm not saying that I'm, a thing of beauty, but he's looking like this, and I'm enough said. But wow, it's there's so many charities that I wouldn't let in there, and there's so many people who call themselves charities. It's like and I'm thinking of.
What's the coughing one? Like bless yous for sneezing. I do like Jason's one of Gerry the landlord. Yes, the speaker is technically the landlord of Parliament. It's a convention that's been. I mean, remember, there's also a speaker's apartment that's in there for the speaker.
I thought it was his chair though, because he's got that big sheepskin on the back of the chair. It looks like he could, I could.
Well, yes, but it's anyone who's sitting in that chair actually.
I wouldn't want to sleep there. He's been farting on it for farting.
Oh no, he's got an apartment that overlooks the parliamentary grounds. That's not far from the speaker's office. Yeah, you do see pictures of it. Yeah. Let's see more from Gerry.
Andy.
Yeah, look, you talked about the pressure that there is on the service, and I just wondered what thought there has been to how that pressure might be reduced in some ways to put some rubber banding, stretch until potentially it breaks. How that might be procedurally reduced. So some of the things that you sometimes look at some of the bills that go through and think, well, there's 3 or 4 doing something broadly similar, but they have to be 3 or 4 because that's the way the system works. It should make the system much more efficient. Because I'm looking at the clerk here and saying, are there ways in which we could actually reduce the workload by changing procedure? It might be it's a standing orders or business committee type thing, but that might assist the service.
Standing orders always looks at. So the process for the standing orders review started a little earlier in this parliament, and but it always looks at those sorts of things. But David will comment further. I think. I'll link you.
Well, I think one of the things that may be indicating is that the rules that a bill must relate to single subject area do mean that if you have pieces of policy developed over a period of time in the same broad area, there's not always the ability to wait until all of those are together and put them in one bill, because if it doesn't relate to one subject area, or it's not a permissible sort of omnibus bill, relates to a single bill policy, and you do end up with multiple pieces of legislation in the same subject area. So there are things that can be done about that. One of them is, I think, is in the policy development space. Is about ensuring that all the work in an area is done before a bill is proposed and policy decisions are finalised. The other one is looking at the rules around single subject areas. And one of the things that I proposed in my submission to the Standing Orders Committee is that could be relaxed a bit in situations where there've been public consultation and engagement on a bill before it's introduced, so that the government introducing it assure it's in good shape. So there are levers that can be pulled to do that. The other lever, I think, that's been talked about a bit around the volume of submissions is perhaps there's a parallel channel where members of the public are able to just indicate support or opposition to a bill, maybe make a comment about it, but they don't have to go down the formal submission path, which might mean that submissions channel is a more substantive one, and they could be the things that committees focus on hearing. But people who simply want to have their say through a simple channel could also do that.
And how big are those kind of changes? How big a difference would they make to your work, your team's workload?
I mean, it's difficult to know how they'd be picked up. But it's certainly, I mean, if there are a smaller number of more detailed and substantive submissions, that certainly would make a difference to the speed with which we can process them and get them into committees. This one main concern that committees get them as quickly as possible so they can start hearing them and have as much members have time as possible to digest them.
Can I ask a completely different question? Unless you've got somebody else.
I will let you in this instance.
Oh,
it's progress behind you.
It's fairly innocuous one. It's just assuming that going back to the buildings, assuming that the building doesn't, the library building does not need a significant investment at all. So there's $90 million or something of that order of magnitude, which is available. What's the next plan that you would use that for as part of the precinct development? Does it allow the speeding up of the development elsewhere? What's the thinking going on there?
Well, it will cost some millions because you've got to have it in a state that people are comfortable being in there. But look, there are other areas of Parliament that are empty. If you look at what was the old press gallery building, the brutalist piece of architecture sitting on top of the Beehive car park and swimming pool, something has to be done with that. It's either got to be demolished and gone, or brought up to speed. If it had been brought up to standard under the old code, the 2020 code, it would have been impossible to use it because you'd have had cross steel arrangements.
Well, you talk about the Beehive annex, but
the annex, all the way through it.
Yeah.
You'd have also had to pile underneath it to quite some depth to prop it up, and those would have had to be braced as well. So it was a completely impractical proposition. Yet the what are they called? Heritage New Zealand was saying, no, you can't do any of that because it's a fine piece of brutalist architecture that should be left untouched. Now, I don't want to be too pointed, given that personnel sitting around the table at Wellington City Council haven't been at all helpful to Parliament in
operating under the law, I'm sure.
Operating under the law is
paying rates might
one
help.
way of saying we make up the law and we decide what the law actually means. And I think that's an ongoing problem, but it's soon to be solved.
Thank you. Celia.
Thank you.
So what do you find from the questions from Uncle Andy?
Very, very insightful and on point, definitely. And I found that a really interesting reply from Gerry that, brutalist piece of architecture that should really be pulled down. I mean, there is actually some of the architecture that I do enjoy around us, I mean, remember when they were actually, and I'm sure it's still something that's, and maybe this is what they're talking about, is the bridge over from the city to sea.
Oh, sea bridge, yes.
And that'll still be a thing as well,
because that was one where
some people wanted to pull that down, just pull it down.
Yeah, and it's like here's the part that actually got me over that was pull it down. The double-decker buses can't fit under it, and it's like. It's like 5.5 meters clearance.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have a height sign to tell you can't fit under there. What do these same people do? Was it fill the terrace tunnel up with concrete? We can't put double-decker buses down it.
Oh, do you know what my favourite thing now is at the moment is especially, and this is very political and a little bit off subject, but kind of on subject, is the whole Basin Reserve thing, especially with Mount Vic Tunnel coming up and with me being a cyclist. It's impossible, especially riding from Newtown towards Mount Vic, where I live right now.
Yeah.
And then I have to go out of the cycle lane, poke my bloody arm out, hope that all the people are watching me. Well, I'm watching them, watching me, watching them, and then go across 2 lanes of traffic onto a thin little median strip over onto the Basin Reserve. It's just, and then they're talking
Oh, I know what you mean. And I'm one of, at Basin Noodle House, if a bike is in front of me at Basin Noodle House, I let them cross. So I'm one of those drivers who actually, it's about Basin Noodle House. Like, if you're ahead of me at Basin Noodle House, I'm anticipating you're going to move across in front of me. But I'll be honest, many drivers wouldn't sit there and think about that.
I haven't been killed so far.
No, well, you're here now.
and I haven't even been tooted at because so I think that's been really, really cool. Yeah, just as an aside note. I have been really just trying to let people know where I'm going, when I'm going, and getting out of the cycle lane onto the main street and whatever, main highway, cross 2 lanes over into that little, mini, But that's beside the point. What were we actually talking about?
The CC Bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's the concrete piles on the seaside of the bridge that could collapse in the event of a earthquake. But here's the thing: is if the piles collapse, the rest of the road's going to collapse as well. So it's like it's something like if the bridge falls to bits, the road's probably going to be ripped up anyway.
I don't think the actual sort of like artisticness of the over city to sea overpass is the problem. I think it's the roading structure in itself. But
yeah. Okay, let's see more from Gerry.
I will not go into the relationship between council and parliament at the moment. I was really interested in following on from the work that's been done with Te Rito, youth engagement, youth parliament, sounds all good. But if you're looking at the report on schools, the regions that were visited with the education outreach either had no schools or fewer than 2% visit parliament. And I wondered when the last discussion was about potentially having a Canberra type visit where you would expect all schools, and maybe at intermediate level, maybe at a different age group, to visit the capital, and obviously Parliament and a number of other institutions like Te Papa National Portrait Gallery, whatever suited that school, and whether there had been any budgeting for such a programme looked at.
Firstly, the Australian program is not as good as they make out. The actual number of schools who get to Canberra is very, very low, considering the size of the population, the total number of schools. So it doesn't work anywhere near to the idea that all school students get to go to Canberra. It's a very low percentage. I think it's below 10%, actually. It's quite surprisingly low. The second thing is I'm not a great fan of youth parliament because it is an expensive exercise for a very small number of people, and it doesn't reach the wider group of people that wider group of young people that perhaps could for the same expenditure. But again, it's one of those things that's been inside the budget. It had no increase in funding this year. In fact, we just couldn't do it. That's why it was pared back. And the Ministry of Youth weren't very prepared to pay for much either. So they just expected Parliament to pay for it, which is an ongoing problem. And so once there's Parliament determines its own funding, then those sorts of things can be more considered. But it would be a horrifically expensive exercise to bring every young child from a secondary school, from an intermediate school or a secondary school, whatever level you decided to pitch at, to Wellington for a program. So it's not on the cards at the moment.
Thank you. Glenn.
Coming back, we did talk about properties earlier, and looking back in terms of speakers' directions and acts that are required to be observed, there's only 67% of the 100% target of eco officers up to security standard. And I understand what you talked about at the start, that, you know, you're only working within the money that you actually have. Can someone just comment on, because that to me seems like a challenging number in terms of safety and security for our staff and members?
It is, but then you've got also members who are not operating officers, who operate periodically from other locations with staff at advertised venues where there's no security at all. So it's a difficult one. What happens at the moment, and Brad will give you some numbers, but is that every effort is made to comply with the requirements of an employer, people keeping them safe in the workplace.
It is a low number. As I said, we work with members to make sure that the critical safeguards can be applied to the office. And sometimes I realize that it's not possible because of the office. So as the speaker said, it's a shared responsibility between the member and the service. We can't go into a member's office and demand that the critical security safeguards are adhered to. So we just need to work with the members and see how we can get that number up.
And on that, in terms of, you know, as the chief, I deal with security issues and events, and we now have a new team in Parliament that's been stood up around monitoring those events. And, you know, so thank you for turning up. But again, Mr. Speaker, and, you know, into the executive, have we had to cut corners in other places to be able to fund these services? You know, how have we managed to do it? And thank you that you have.
Well, just taking $1 million out of the catering costs gives you a lot of flexibility. And there's been one or two other places like that where some costs have been reduced, but I don't think overall service has gone.
And we did get some funding in the previous budget for that purpose, and also to harden the security around select committees, the select committee window.
Tom.
Mr. Speaker, keen to get your gauge on the clerk of the House and Parliamentary Service making submissions to select committees on legislation. Has that been a practice that has occurred for many, many years?
I believe so.
Okay. And is it on the implications that that piece of legislation would have to the day-to-day operations of Parliament?
Sorry, say that again.
Is it on would it be your expectation that that should just be on the implications that that piece of legislation would have to the day-to-day operations of Parliament, or should it be broader than that?
Well, I don't think you could come out with a hard and fast yes or no on that. It would depend entirely on what the legislation was. And when you say effects on Parliament, the day-to-day operation of Parliament, some bills would change the way in which processes might be dealt with, in which case you would expect the clerk to have a view. Do you want to make a comment on that?
I think the comment I've made in select committees when I've been asked that question, which is it is one of my statutory functions to provide advice to Parliament on parliamentary procedure and law. And yeah, it has been a practice of my predecessors, certainly going back to the 1980s, to make submissions to committees when they think it's appropriate. My practice is to share that submission with the Speaker once I've made it, but because I exercise those functions independently of the Speaker, I don't check it off before I send it in.
Tim's got an example he might want to raise.
Thank you.
Well, that's interesting.
Rutherford?
Sorry?
Tom Rutherford, is he in, he's a journalist. Was that attributed?
No, Tom Rutherford is the MP for Bay of Plenty. He's not a journalist. You might think of Thomas Mead.
He's amazing. Yeah, sorry. That was just me showing my, greenness, but
yeah,
no pun intended. But wow, he's got some really insightful questions. That was amazing. Yeah.
For a change, I've seen other points where he's just been completely like hetsy questions. So it's actually good to see some decent actual questions that come out of some of these government MPs. Yeah, but I think that's because they're questioning a body that isn't actually their ministers.
So you think if it was Tom Rutherford's party that was in Parliament, he wouldn't be questioning it so much?
Well, his party is in Parliament, but it's the fact he's questioning the Speaker and the Speaker's team. It's like the type of questions are more like they're quite decent questions. Like actually like they're not performative here. Like if we compare it to finance and expenditure earlier, like these seems to actually like these are like fact-finding questions, whereas like finance and expenditure was like performance. You know, like put it this way, I'm learning more on this stuff, and it's not blame the last government.
Yeah, I know. That's what Nicola was all about earlier. She was just like, no, like the last government was for the last 2 terms. And it's like, were you there when you were born in the 80s? And they actually really fucked everything up, especially when it was the apartheid.
Oh, and
It was
especially
like,
with the
yeah,
amount of time they used urgency.
yeah, pretty much.
Oh, let's see what Tim Costley's got to say.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the ones we talked about select committee, I think, was the parliamentary workforce bill, wasn't it? I think is the one that you're referring
Is
to.
it public service?
The public service amendment bill?
No, that was on the long-term and sub-briefing. I think was the, I'm thinking of the defence workforce bill, which was the one which changed.
Yes.
You know, parliamentary approval from the minister went from 14 days to 30 days. So it had the same oversight, the same process. It just could extend through, for example, the Christmas break. The other one was the long-term insight briefings aspect of the
public
service
amendment.
amendment.
Yeah, and in that instance, that my submission pointed out that a paper that was provided to Parliament under the standing orders would no longer be available, and that's something the committee should think about. So I think it's very clearly connected to parliamentary procedure.
Yes, and I found that submission to be very helpful and elucidating in terms of Parliament's scrutiny role with those briefings. Any further steps on that?
No.
Okay, Peter.
I just want to come back to the strategic intentions, and I think it's good to see obviously working together across both sectors, and just any comments on how, it's a year into it, how that is going in terms of how you've set things up, and are you seeing it more streamlined and working better for our little democracy?
Well, I think so. I mean, one of the things for the office is that we are the recipient of a lot of services from the parliamentary service, as our members at parties, because we also occupy these premises, and we've worked really hard to eliminate duplication. Both, partly because it's not efficient, it's not a good use of taxpayer money, but also because it's far better for our agencies to focus on the things we're good at. In our case, supporting the House and committees and working on parliamentary engagement, and the parliamentary service provides a wider range of functions, and many of those support us. So I think it's ongoing. We'll always look at, are there more things we can do? The most recent example was shifting funding that we were using to purchase ICT services from the parliamentary service in the last budget, actually just to the parliamentary service, since we're not going to buy those services from anyone else anyway. So it's an ongoing piece of work, but I think it is important we don't duplicate services. That wasn't the case when Raf and I came into our roles, and it is something we both agreed to focus on.
Yeah, we've worked really hard in making that happen. Both agencies work for the same purpose, which is helping Parliament, helping democracy. And before we came into these roles, the two agencies seem to be working in different ways. And I think that's been one of a story of success. We complement each other, the things that we do for each other. And I think as a result of that, Parliament has benefited.
In a year in terms of your shared performance frameworks and your shared outcomes, are you achieving those?
Well, I think the reporting, the annual report will show in most cases yes, and in some no, and in some, although the performance measure exists, the event that we measure hasn't yet happened. There's a few there about contributing to standing orders review, for example, so those haven't occurred yet. But yeah, I mean, I think generally we are. I would also say we do set like high performance measures. It's been raised here before. Quite a lot of the officers are 100%, and although that is extremely optimistic, they are just things that you couldn't realistically say it's okay that our advice is right 90% of the time, or we mostly get bills right when we certify them, but not always. It just has to be like that. But we do make a rod for our own backs to an extent there as well, because if you make one mistake out of vetting tens of thousands of questions, you've got to report it. But that's all right.
And the way we set the standards are based on feedback we've received from members. So we hear through different avenues, through Mr. Speaker, what are the things that members expect, and that's how we set up the standard. Sometimes the standard doesn't fit all members, but we look at the best information we can, and I think we're working hard to achieve those.
Well, just finally, in terms of crossover with staff, does that happen? An example of when submissions close on a bill and obviously the system's heaving, or when those submissions have to be assessed, etc. Have you been able to streamline that in terms of working together and having a strategic plan?
Yeah, there have been staff from the parliamentary service do often help the office in times of peak workload. And in a variety of areas, some of the chamber staff support for select committees as well at times. And obviously the ongoing research support that the library provides to secretariats.
And does that take away from the other work, or that's just how you just mould it together when you have to because it's of the pressure at different times?
That's how it is. And when you run agencies that don't have a lot of staff, people triple themselves to just make sure that they fit everything. But as it's worked well, and as David said, we've had really good engagement scores over the past few years. So
loosen your tie.
Thank you, Celia.
Just appropriate on today with the disability strategy launching to acknowledge that you received the accessibility tick, and that's a great step forward. And there was a question in the general written questions to all our agencies about accessibility, but I wanted to hone it down on the plain English issue. Earlier this year, the Plain English Act was repealed. Most agencies had given assurances that they would still be in effect, doing their utmost to be clear and use plain language. And I just wondered if you had any comments as to how you're doing that.
I think the first thing is that that Act didn't apply to the parliamentary agencies because we're not part of the public service. And it is our approach to try and communicate in plain language. Obviously, some of the work we do for committees and in the House, there are some technical terms, but when we're trying to engage with the public, we try and do that in a reasonably straightforward way because we want to support public engagement, and that is working. But if there's more we can do to make things accessible, we always do want to do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Melissa, sorry, you had a supplement.
I think they could do that by wearing T-shirts and not suits in that situation, because they all just look like they were just like henchmen on either side of Gerry Brownlee, which is kind of cute, but at the same time, it was, yeah. And they did make some sense. Sorry, I'm just going to talk through that.
That's all right. I'm going to see if we can find a way that we can.
It was just the fact that they were all there with their upright ties and everything, and they were, we'll find a way through it. And it's just like, well, make yourself more accessible. I didn't even know who you were, beyond today. Yeah, exactly. All I knew that was Gerry Brownlee was, and I'm just speaking for me. I mean, I'm not, you know me, Sam. I'm not following politics to the absolute letter, but obviously I'm pretty interested, especially when it comes to the ground.
Now I'm just trying to find on chat. So I'm going to see if I can try and. What was it? Change the clothing on these people.
Yeah, but I actually feel better about Gerry Brownlee now. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I feel less okay about Nicola Willis. I feel better about Gerry, and I feel less about Nicola. She needs to, go and practice in her mirror a little bit more.
Yeah. Put guys in T-shirts and baseball caps. Okay, let's get on to more from the committee while ChatGPT makes up a new image.
Well, that's okay. I just wanted to talk about your strategy in terms of diversity and inclusion. In your statements, you actually talk about how you actually engage a lot in the committee actually, engage with neurodiverse communities and whatever. And it was interesting for me to actually see the number of and the age spread of the staff in Parliament. But I'm looking at the ethnicity spread of the parliamentary staff. Are you happy with the percentages of the diversity that is actually included in the population?
For the Office of the Clerk, I think a couple of comments I'd make is, one is that we don't require staff to tell us their ethnicity, so we don't know for about 18 to 20% what it is, because it's up to them. What they tell us is always up to them. We always, we're never short of applicants, and we always want to recruit the person best suited for the job. I would like our workforce to, I suppose, be representative and look like New Zealand, more like the House does. But we've always got to recruit the best person that we get for any job. What I want to make sure is that we're not missing out on talented people because some sections of society are not applying, or we're not reaching.
Yeah. So in that sense, are you actively making communities who are different, minority populations, aware that there are opportunities for them, like you're reaching out to the neurodiverse community?
No.
No, you're not. Okay. In your ethnicity graph,
I think you thought it was
there is other ethnicity apart from Asian, European, Māori, Mila, Pacific peoples. So what is the other ethnicity? I thought Asian, European, Maori, Mila, Pacific peoples would cover the whole of the world.
It does seem like a good spread. Well, I mean, as I say, because it is a self-identification, if people choose something that isn't one of those categories, it would go in there.
Like what?
Well, I don't know because I don't know what people choose. I'm not there when they choose.
So who actually did this? Could someone actually come back to me as to what
Maybe,
other ethnicity is
Well,
that is not, it doesn't fit?
self-choice.
I know, but it doesn't fit into Asian, European, Mila, Maori, Mila, Pacific people.
Might be a mix.
Yeah, we might be able to, you might be able to come back to Melissa on that with, we've just run out of time.
I'm very curious.
But
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us today and for answering our questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, he fucked up on that question. That was pretty epic, actually.
Yeah. Well, I'm just waiting for ChatGPT to make up an image.
Of how we fucked up.
Oh no! This is an image on the MPs. Oh, it's nearly there. It's nearly there. Come on, just load.
Oh gosh, Sam, I'm going to have to go soon though. But that was amazing. I mean,
Yeah, no
it wasn't
problem.
amazing. It was a little bit triggering, especially the first bit with Nicola Willis. I had to admit, I really found that a little bit triggering. Just how she just kept going. The previous, two.
Yeah, I mean
the previous two governments when she was just born in the 80s and hasn't actually done her fucking research about how National has fucked our country up over the past 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's 93% complete, 94% complete on the image. It's nearly there. Just waiting for it to.
Fucking AI.
Oh, I know, but it's going to be funny. When you see, so I put in there, put them in t-shirts and baseball caps, and just so you can have a bit of fun.
You probably, yeah. But I was really impressed by Gerry Brownlee, but his henchman really kind of freaked me out at the same time. Yeah.
Well, I can't remember. His henchman's right.
Tomorrow, when I turn up for the paper order, I'm going to turn up with a couple of people on either side of me.
I've got no problem with that. You can make them Daleks.
They might have used paper dolls, but there'll be at least one real person. But yeah.
I like that option. Yeah.
And
come on, hurry up and load. I want to see this happen. Oh gee, it's like annoying. It's 100%, and it's slowly like shrinking down. Like how do we? Oh, no! I don't want to go.
What are you looking at? The stats.
Yeah. No. Oh. So.
Are you looking at the stats?
So this is what ChatGPT's put up there, put them in t-shirts.
And I'm wearing my Top Gun hat. I love that.
like you sit there and look at it like this is what they already look like.
So funny. I couldn't believe it when they turned up wearing all those ties. Yeah, they should have been just a lot more cash. What's happening? It's so funny.
But yeah, they actually look like so that's quite a good like looking in there now. I don't know if that's the best way of doing it, but I mean
it was really funny. I did actually love it. Well, who's this guy on my right, on your left? And
was it this guy here with the mouse is over?
I can't see the mouse.
This guy.
That guy. Yeah.
So Gerry's left or Gerry's right?
Jerry's, my right.
You're right. Okay, so that's
the way Jerry's looking.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Dr. David Wilson. He is the clerk of the House of Representatives. So he's the one that you see in front of Gerry Brownlee at the start of Parliament on Parliament every day, reading out a bunch of things. That's Dr. David Clark. Very, he's worked in Parliament
Influential
forever.
character. Yeah.
And the other one is, what's his name? It's Rafael Gonzalez, was it Montero, who is the chief executive.
Right. Yeah. No, I was a little bit pissed off with him actually, because with his orange tie, I thought orange was really a bad.
What was the t?
Colour.
Just remember when he was put into a t-shirt, he got put into an orange hat.
But at the same time, yeah.
It actually looks quite funny with them in there, how they've got the t-shirts with the hats, but the fact it's in the Women's Suffrage Select Committee room.
Yeah, I know. That was so funny. Are we off live now?
Oh no, we're still live.
We're still on live. Oh yeah,
Okay.
go for it.
Okay, so for that, it's nearly 9 o'clock. It was it was David Clark. Yes, not David Wilson.
Yeah.
Yes, it was David Clark who did that. That's what Not Bernadette is asking for. Okay, so we will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. for more Order Paper Podcast Scrutiny Week specials. And for all our lovely fans who watch it, let's migrate over to BHM for the 9 o'clock news. Thank you, Ray, for joining me, and have a good evening.
Take it down, Noel.
Thank you for watching the Order Paper, your express ticket to the New Zealand House of Representatives. Every episode, we unravel the complex world of legislation, debate, and democracy. From bills to select committees, we've got it all covered. From our team of political commentators who will dissect and explain what's happened so you can remain up to date on what's happened in the Aotearoa, New Zealand Parliament. To support our channel, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/it'sintheballot. The Order Paper Podcast is brought to you by It's in the Ballot.